Building sites are dangerous places. It's easy to get injured and fatal accidents are not unknown. That side of the job, though, has been improving. Accidents are down over the last 20 years. But there is also the mental stress of work in construction, an industry which, for example, suffers from a startling rate of suicide. One building company that's been closely looking at the question of mental health is Lend-Lease. It employs 13,000 people in the UK, Australia and Asia.
I think the construction industry has a significant problem with mental health, stress, anxiety. In fact, you're 6 times more likely to die from suicide than you are from an accident on site these days, which is a phenomenal statistic. So we've done a lot to improve the physical aspects of safety on site, but we've not done anywhere near as much on the mental and emotional side. A lot of people are embarrassed to come out and talk about it. We want to make it okay to talk about it. We talk about it ourselves in senior management, try to act as role models.
Dave Lee, a builder from Brighton, found he was someone in need of help. He had a tough childhood and, as a teenager, spent time in jail. In the macho world of building, he ended up taking therapy, reading books about stress, and even wrote one himself, The Hairy-Arsed Builder's Guide to Stress Management.
Within the industry, there can be a lot of pressures and stresses that can accumulate, that can create explosive situations. So there can be a lot of anger and frustration that can be shown within that environment because of, outside circumstances, inside circumstances, that, something that might seem petty can suddenly be a very quite explosive situation. So, yeah, there's a lot of anger and frustration within the jobs, with tools being thrown and, and conflicts within that environment, yeah.
With a fellow builder, Andy Dean, Mr. Lee has set up a company, Building Site to Boardroom, which offers training to companies to promote mental well-being among workers.
What I basically did was speak to them, have a relationship with them, communicate with them, using words rather than orders, inviting them to inquire what they were doing in their day, what were they thinking about when they were doing the job that they should be doing, and what was the blocks and the barriers around that. It's been proven that no matter how much safety training you do, people are still getting hurt, people are still suffering injury and even death. But until we actually start thinking about what we're doing when we're doing it, is it really going to become safer?
One worker who's benefited is James Alexander. As a building site ground worker, he's been in the industry for much of his working life and agrees that a change of culture is necessary.
You've got to think about it from this point of view. If you've got a lot of angry blokes on site, they're not going to be focusing on health and safety. If you've got a lot of blokes on site that are being spoken to in the right manner, and you've got a nice positivity going on, and everyone gets on swimmingly well, then your forethought's always going to be, hang on, let's look after Bob, let's look after Jay. You're not going to be going, oh, let's not look after Bob because he's just spoken to me like an absolute idiot. So for me, if you speak to people in the way you should be, that is just the key thing for me, is how people are spoken to on building sites.
Is it going to catch on across the wider industry? Construction consultant Jean Duprey certainly thinks so. She won an MBE for her work on recruiting apprentices into building.
It will actually become norm to talk about, mental health issues that they have, or stresses, or, I think in time, 2 years from here, we could be talking where it's an explosion, where everyone is talking about mindfulness and well-being. It's the words on everyone's lips, like asbestos and silica dust. It's going to be exactly the same, and we're going to be in the same situation. By doing that, we will then attract a new type of people into the construction industry.
Big companies are hearing the message, and it's not just good for safety, it's good for business too.
And I think it's something that as organisations we have to recognise, we have to do our utmost to remove the stigma, and we have to put the support mechanisms in place. We live in a very complex, pressurised world, and there are a lot of issues that people are dealing with that they bring to work with them that affect them at work, and we in the corporate world can help people and do that through a more active and a more open work environment. And I think that is the right thing to do, but I also think at the end of the day it's going to help our organisations be more productive.
Building sites are not like they used to be in the old days. They're safer now, and minds are gradually turning, therefore, from the old arts of laying a brick, digging a trench or carrying a hod. There's still a lot of macho culture to break through, but it seems the answer could be a simple one. In the building industry, as anywhere else, It's good to talk. This is Peter Chapman for the Financial Times in London.